Hey guys, it's Hart. Welcome back to the channel. Today I'll be going over my top picks and plays for this weekend's PGA tournament, which is the WGC Match play. So it's a little bit different than the usual tournaments. Obviously, this weekend is going to be, for those of you that don't know, it's going to be a match play tournament where it's pretty much like the NCAA tournament, where it's just match play. So you survive your group, you move on to the next round. And so obviously this weekend is going to be a lot different in terms of how you want to attack your lineups in this slate. You're going to want to obviously pick guys from different regions so that you guys don't run into each other in the Sweet 16 and that you have four clear paths to the Final Four. And that's kind of the optimal build. But for this video, I'll just be touching on my favorite plays the guys I really like that I think have a really legit shot of taking down this tournament or at least getting you to the Final Four. So make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. We're coming off a hugely successful week once again. Another weekend where I easily cashed in the big 200K two first. I was in the top 1,000 for a while, but on Sunday my guys kind of fell off. Cam Young started hot, but he kind of fell off there. But I've cashed 6 out of the past 7 PGA tournaments so far this year. So looking to continue that great streak there. 4 out of 4 of the core plays made the lineup or made the cut. Scotty Scheffler, obviously one of the core plays, won. Cantlay finished tied 19th. He made the cut. Cam Young made the cut, and then Tony Finau made the cut as well. So let's get into the picks for this week. I think the chalkiest play this week is obviously going to be Scotty Scheffler, and it's going to be super hard not to get to him this week. He's just been unreal, just fantastic this season. As you can see here with his past events, he obviously came off last week with the win at the Players, which we nailed. So that was fantastic for us there. Great getting that in our core plays, having Scotty. So that was great. But then T4, T12, he won at the Phoenix Open, 11, 7, 2. But Scotty Scheffler has played fantastic here at the WGC event. He's coming off a win last year. I think he got second place the year prior. So he is the clear top dog in this tournament, and it's going to be hard not to play him. Coming out of Group 1 and Group 16, I mean, he's got a pretty solid path to at least get to, obviously, the Sweet 16, if not get past that to the Elite 8 and go on from there. So obviously, Scotty being probably the chalkiest, he'll probably be 20 to 25% owned here for this slate, which obviously it starts tomorrow. If you guys did not know, if you're not were aware of it, it starts tomorrow and not on Thursday, just because they got to get through playing each other once, and then they got to move on to the elimination rounds. But yeah, Scotty Scheffler is an absolute beast. He has the game, everything you need that you need to win in match play. The driving, the big driver, the irons, the birdies, the chip ins, the eagles, all that good stuff. Scotty has that, and he has the past and previous success here. Winning at this place last year, I think he got top second the year before that. So with all that, it's hard not to get to Scotty. It's kind of one of your favorite plays for at least one, or if not a lot of your lineups for this weekend. And you guys can find this bracket. You can find one on the PGA Tour Twitter feed or website. But this I'm getting from Rick Rungood in his bracket that he made here in Excel. So you guys can check out his Twitter or YouTube channel and find it there. But the next guy I'm going to go with is Cam Young coming over here on the right side at Group 15. I just love the matchup here for Cam Young. Sepp Straka in the group, Corey Connors, Davis Thompson, and above him, it's a very hard group for John Rahm. He's got Billy Horschel, Keith Mitchell, Ricky Fowler. Billy Horschel's won before. He's a grinder. He loves getting gritty and just getting out there and playing match play. So that's a super tough group for John Rahm. Anyone could really come out of that group. And then I think Cam Young is clear ahead of everyone in his group. Sepp Straka, Corey Connors, and Davis Thompson. This should be Cam Young's group to go. And we're going to go back to the well here, just like we did with Scotty last week. We're picking him this week. We're picking Cam Young as well here to come out of that stage and secure us at least at least in the Elite 8, if not a Final Four. As I mentioned, you're going to want your picks to be able to get into at least the Elite 8, if not the Final Four. And then if you do have two guys going against each other in the Elite 8, you at least want to have a chance for one of 3 of your other guys to be into the Final Four from the other quadrants. So definitely keep that in mind. But obviously, this is more just my pick show and not the game theory show. But yes, Cam Young, another one of those guys who, if we look him up here real fast, coming off more of a disappointing week last week, he had a chance to get into like the top 10, top 5 potentially, depending on how he came into Sunday. Sunday, he started off with 2 quick birdies. He was 6 under and then kind of just blew up the last like 12 holes or so. So he kind of fell off there, did not finish as well as it kind of looked like he could have. But he's just another one of those guys who's just super even keel. He's got a new caddy on the bag, but he's one of those guys who he absolutely crushes the driver. He's very solid at approach shots, and he's I think fourth in the field at getting birdies. The whole field, he's number four at getting the overall total birdies in the field. So he's a guy who can easily get birdies, can really rack them up, and he's just that even keeled demeanor that you really can't get too high or low on. Like you can't really, get emotion out of him in match play. So I do really like Cam Young here, running back with him as well. Third favorite, or my third core play, I guess I should say, is going to be Victor Hovland. Just another young player that I absolutely love. And he's just got all the tools in his toolbox to just absolutely take down this tournament. Coming off a tied third at the Players. Before that, a tied 10 at the Arnold Palmer. Genesis got 20, Phoenix 42, but then before that, 13 at the Pebble. Century Tournament Champions, he had 18, and obviously won the Hero World Challenge. So another fantastic start to the year for Victor Hovland here. As we can see, if we pull up his stats here, strokes gained total, 15th in the field, off the tees, 8th. So he's absolutely got an insane driver, and his approach play is fantastic. Right now, he's 29th tee to green. Approach to the green. And overall, he's kind of like our first three guys putting. Our first three picks is kind of the same like last week. All they really need to lock in on is their putting. Scotty needs to lock in his putting. If he does, he's clearly the best player in the world. Cam Young, if he locks in his putting, he could be a top 10, top 15 player in the world if he just locks that in because he's got all the other tools. And same thing with Victor. He's kind of been uh he's like he's like the version of what Cam Young could and should be is what Victor Hovland is. And Victor Hovland even has that next step. Like he could be a top tier player for the next 10 years or so if he just kind of works on that short game and his putting, around the green. But right now, he's just been playing fantastic. He's another one of those guys who really has no weakness in his game besides kind of the chipping around the green, which I don't expect him to get into too much here because his approach play to the green has just been fantastic so far. So Victor Halvin, another one of those guys I really like coming out of his group. But obviously, if you're going to play Scotty Scheffler, I'd try to avoid playing Victor Hovland, but at the same time, you are going to run into those situations where you might have two of your golfers, if they both win, end up in the Elite Eight where they face off. But if that happens, obviously you want a chance of the three other paths to the Final Four. You want guys from those quadrants as well if you are going to do that. So if you're going to play Scotty Scheffler, Victor Hovland, let's say they both make to the Elite Eight. Obviously, one of them is going to lose, move on to the Final Four. You're going to want a guy from this group 5, 12, 13, 4, this South, let's just say Southwest region down here in the green. You're going to want them to get one of those guys, hopefully get to the Final Four. You're obviously going to want a guy from the top right region to get to the Final Four and a guy from the bottom right to get to the Final Four. So that's going to happen with some of your lineups. But yeah, you're going to want to avoid your guys playing each other until at least the Elite Eight. And that's kind of how you want to build your lineups. My fourth core play for this weekend is going to be more of a dark horse here just because of his past and previous experiences here have not been great. Scotty Scheffler has obviously won it last year, got a top 2 the year before that. Kim Young, I can't remember what he did here last year. I know Victor Hovland's gotten some very solid results here. Tony Finau, he's just one of those guys who really hasn't. He's struggled. I think since 2018, he hasn't made it out of his group stage, which obviously is god awful. Maybe Tony's just one of those guys who just can't get himself to kind of get the energy and the desire or passion or whatever it may be to make it out of the group stage. Maybe he just doesn't have that trait in him. But for that reason, that's kind of why I like him as a dark horse. His ownership is going to be super, super low. Like we know for Scotty, he's probably going to be the highest owned on the slate. Cam Young's starting to draw some ownership. Victor Hovland should be decently owned. But yeah, Tony Finau, he's one of those guys. He's kind of floating at like 10 to 13% ownership right now. Obviously, he's in the same situation as Scotty and Victor are. If you're going to play Cam Young and Tony Finau, they obviously have that chance of running into each other in the Elite Eight. So it's the same situation where if you're going to do that, if you're going to lead off with those two guys, you're obviously going to want to get guys from other quadrants to optimize your chances of getting guys into the Final Four, because obviously one of those two are going to have to win and lose. So Tony Finau, the dark horse for me, just because his ownership's pretty low, and we know his overall game is great. Obviously, he had a few wins last year, as you can see here, or that's the President's Cup, but coming off the cadence there, 7th at the Hero World Challenge, so he's been doing good. It's just he's kind of been floating wading in the waters right now. As you can see here, American Express. So he started off the year TLC tied top seven, tied 16th, and then the ninth, the 14th, the 20th, the 24th, the 19th. So he's just kind of floating. He's making the cuts, not doing anything too crazy. He's not leading any tournaments right now or so far. It's just kind of making the cuts and just kind of floating in the middle of the pack. And I really expect Tony to kind of start getting hot here, whether it's this week or going into the Masters. I expect Tony Finau to start turning it on, and he's my favorite like dark horse low owned play of the slate. And then I have two more plays for you guys. The first one of those is going to be, where is he? Where did he go? It's going to be Max Homa wherever he is. Oh, he's down here in Group 5. Max Homa, I do like him coming out of that group. He's got a pretty, Hideki could cause him some trouble. Kevin Kids there has had a lot of success here over the years, but he's been god awful recently. So I do like Max Homa coming out of this bottom left group here. I think he's pretty solid. And same thing for a guy like Cam Davis. I do like Cam Davis, but I think over Cam Davis, I'd rather go to Sahith down here in Group 11. You know, as going against Matt Fitzpatrick, Minwoo Lee, JJ Spawn. I think this is a very solid spot for Sahith Thagala, who's a guy who we know can get super, super hot, rack up a bunch of birdies, and that's hard to compete with on this match play event. Is a guy who's going to go out there and score a ton of birdies. So I think those two other plays are guys you could definitely shift into the core plays here. But obviously, going to go with Scotty, Cam Young, Victor Hovland, Tony Finau. As I said, you're going to want to kind of look at a bracket and go with the best and most optimal route, which is trying to get at least four of your players having a path to the final four and not having any of your guys run into each other until the Elite Eight. So those are my four core plays. If you guys like the video, hit that like button. Excuse me, and I'll see you guys in the next PGA Tour video.